And of course, there's a verse where somebody says, but John, isn't the teaching of the New Testament that we're supposed to turn the other cheek? Again, you and I need to understand the Bible. I mean, we can't just quote the Bible and assume things. Let's learn something about the Bible. Yes, the Bible does say turn the other cheek. If someone strikes you on one cheek, turn to him the other also. Luke 6:29. What's it about? In the biblical culture, striking someone on the cheek was an insult. So Lamentations 3:30. Let him offer his cheek to the one who would strike him, and let him be filled with disgrace. Job 16:10. And you remember Job. Job was a man who got sick, and he lost his children and his possessions, and he was ridiculed and mocked. And he says in 16:10, men open their mouths to jeer at me. They strike my cheek in scorn. So Christ said, if someone strikes you on the cheek, if someone insults you, turn to him the other also. Don't let somebody's insult derail your whole life, says Jesus. It's like today. You're walking down the street and somebody calls you a name. What are you going to run across the street, get in a fist fight, get thrown in jail, get your whole life derailed because somebody called you a name? You know, that's what Christ is saying. Don't let anybody really derail your life with an insult. But Christ didn't say, if somebody murders your wife, marry again so he can murder the other one. You know, turn the other cheek is not about capital crimes. It's not about crime at all. What about draw the sword? You know, on the night of his arrest, Peter, Jesus' disciple, took a sword and struck Malchus, the high priest. And Christ said, put your sword back. All who draw the sword will die by the sword. What's the context of that? Well, the context of that, as much as we know the high priests were evil and were scheming, the fact of the matter is they had a legal arrest warrant for Jesus, and they were carrying out that arrest warrant, and Peter drew his sword and struck at the force that was coming to arrest Christ. You know, there's that kind of thing could happen a lot in America today. There's lots of people who are falsely accused, and the police show up at their door to arrest them. You know, what would happen if you know you're being falsely accused, the police are coming to your door, and you go get your rifle and you start shooting the policeman? Yes, you'd die by the sword. And what's Christ say? He says, look, in that situation, don't draw the sword. But if we study our biblical history, that very afternoon, remember Christ was arrested at night. That very afternoon, Christ knew he was going to be arrested. He knew he was going to die. He knew things were going to get dicey. So you know what he said? Sure, check it out. Luke chapter 22, verse 36. The same day, he said, if you draw the sword, you'll die by the sword. He said, now, if you have a purse, take it in a bag. And if you don't have a sword, sell your coat and buy one. Now, why would Christ say, sell your coat and buy a sword if you couldn't use it? It doesn't make any sense. The context of the quote, if you draw the sword, you'll die by the sword, is if you draw the sword against the legal authorities, it won't go well with you. And then people will tell me, well, John, but bottom line, the death penalty can't be loving. And I turn that right upside down. And I say, absolutely, it's loving. The Bible says that, in fact, Jesus Christ himself said, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. And we saw that the death penalty is commanded by God, and it's commanded by God to keep our society safe. And if we love him, we will obey him. I want a safe society. I hope you do too. God in his word tells us how to get one. Let's be brave enough and bold enough to make sure that we can have that in society today. Our friends, our neighbors, our family, our children deserve that safe society.